All right, so this is a suggestion via a donation. The name of the video is Why AI May End Labor Protections and Become Your New Employer. Let's go ahead and check it out, guys.
To better understand what this economic climate means for companies' bottom lines.
You got hard times coming, guys.
Today, I'm speaking with former Secretary of Labor, Robert Reich. Professor Reich, thanks so much for joining.
Was he 97?
Well, thank you for inviting me.
97?
As former Secretary of Labor, do you think that U.S. workers today are better off now than they were 30 years ago?
Well, it's a very, very complicated question, Lindsay. Thank you for asking it. In terms of inflation-adjusted pay, real wages, the typical worker is a little bit better than he or she was 30 years ago, but not very much better.
Yeah, 97 he left.
That is, if you look at productivity relative to wages, the gap continues to grow.
Yeah.
Great. I'm glad you bring up productivity because that was our next question. U.S. productivity is on the decline year over year. Why is productivity growth slowing in the U.S.?
I am one of the few who think that actually it's measured improperly. I think if you look at the actual value of output of Americans overall, again, it's very, very difficult with all of the intellectual property and the internet to accurately compare one period to another period. I think we are enormously productive, much more productive than we were, more productive than the data show, because there's so many new efficiencies built into the production process that we don't see. So I would say overall,
completely. And if AI has anything to do with it, it's just going to make it better. It's going to hurt a lot of people, though. Keep that in mind. It's absolutely going to hurt a lot of people's pockets because AI is going to be cheap, obviously, because it's buy it one time, code, right? And then give us a plan type of thing, guys, right? AI absolutely is going to wreck so much of what we know in terms of productivity and overall efficiency. And just based off the title itself, and become your new employer. If we start doing like AI managers, that'll be the worst thing humankind has ever seen. Be late for work one day.
American workers are substantially more productive than they were, given their capacities through technology.
Right.
But those capacities are not being reflected in their paychecks. And worker pay continues to be very, very sluggish, even before the Fed started raising interest rates in an attempt to slow the economy.
Sure. So one of those efficiencies could be AI. Can all workers benefit from the rise in AI technology, or is it just something that tech and media can benefit from?
Well, we're all going to benefit to the extent that there
in
are
some way
new efficiencies. We can buy things cheaper. We can get AI embedded in all sort of gadgets. And therefore, our lives become just easier. On the other hand, there will be a lot of casualties in terms of workers, not just the routine workers that were in the factories that got replaced by software over the last 30 years, but we're going to see more professional workers who are actually going to be losing their jobs because AI can do those jobs at least as well as they can and far more efficiently.
I'm going to go ahead and say, guys, the people who are going to get hit the most are like the people with like bachelors and honestly, masters, honestly, everybody, I would say, that works in any type of office. You are absolutely replaceable with AI. Right. And as ChatGPT is getting like crazier, I think the new iteration of it, the plus version, does a lot more critical thinking or advanced processing in terms of the questions that you're asking it. Yeah, bro, it's a problem. And if we're there right now, so early on, everyone is replaceable in an office building completely. Like trades, not at all. It's all the people who went to school for a very long time, got in debt. Every single one of those people are generally replaceable with AI. And that's crazy, guys, right? Absolutely.
And it's going to have tremendous social and political implications.
I'm one of those people. Keep that in mind,
yes.
guys.
Workers are used to doing fairly well. This isn't the working class anymore. We're now talking about the middle class of America, and AI could very easily be taking over many of those jobs.
Yeah.
That sort of leads directly into my next question. So how will AI change the employer-employee relationship?
Don't be late.
AI could change the employer-employee relationship dramatically because right now, today, depending upon how you measure it, anywhere from 16 to 38% of American workers are independent contractors. AI is going to basically create a different kind of employment relationship because if you have platforms, as you do now, you're going to have more platforms, more AI, more of us, including, I hate to say it, Lindsay, maybe even you, are going to be working for AI. We're not going to be working for big companies. We're not going to be working directly for them. We're going to be working for AI intermediaries
by
and
proxy.
Platforms. Those intermediaries and platforms are going to be paying us a kind of spot auction rate. That is, what is our demand at the moment? Now, you might say that that's very efficient, but it is also extremely destabilizing in terms of our lives. I mean, how can we possibly plan our lives if we are in a spot auction market in terms of what we earn? Things we take for granted, all of the labor protections of the last 120 years, everything. I mean, AI could eradicate all of them. And so you have basically the owners and investors over here and all the rest of us over here.
I think this sort of answers that. But what is the biggest challenge facing workers today?
It is to stay relevant and to continue to produce content and products that justify the wages,
existence.
Even though those wages have not kept up barely with productivity. It is inevitable that we are going to have some sort of a universal basic income.
And that very specific thing, guys, is absolutely going to happen if we, for example, in Alaska, right? They get like a stipend kind of thing, right? Like a dividend every single year, just for basically living in Alaska and allowing oil companies to pillage their land, basically, right? So if you live there, you get a dividend. You get paid every single year. Now, if we allow AI to kind of take over in the way that it has and will, to be honest, right? Universal basic income is going to have to be mandatory because people are just not going to be able to survive at all in any type of economy similar to what is being forecasted, guys. But all right, let's get it.
For the simple reason, this is regardless whether you're on the left or the right, doesn't matter. People have got to have enough money in their pockets to buy all of the things that the new economy is capable of producing.
Right.
If you've got AI and all of these platforms, and you've got people who are basically no longer needed, huge numbers of people, then how do you get money in their pockets to buy everything the economy is capable of producing? You simply can't have an economy under those circumstances.
Great haves and have-nots.
We need workers, we need consumers, we need investors. But the worker and consumer part of the economy is going to be under even more stress over the next 25 years.
So you bring up UBI. Inflation is sort of the other conversation topic when we talk about UBI. Inflation has been a hot topic for a while, though it's getting better slowly. Are companies partially to blame for the rise in inflation?
Well, I think that they are. I mean, and this is not every company, obviously, but some of the big companies that have some monopoly power over their markets, they have been using inflation as a way of essentially justifying their price increases. And it's not just that they're passing on increasing prices, they're also taking advantage of the fact that they can increase their prices without any anti-competitive effect for them. So they are raising their profit margins. This is not disputable. I mean, even the IMF has seen this and made a report about it. We say, and the Fed has been saying, wages are a major contributor, supply chains are a major contributor. Well, all that's true. But the big X factor here has been all along, it's been big corporations that are increasing their profit margins.
So will we see a recession in the next year? If you don't think so, why has the recession stalled?
I am perhaps in the minority here. I don't think we're going to see a recession. I think the Fed has done a fairly good job of engineering a soft landing. But the big factor that people are not talking about...
Guys, I definitely would not call this a soft landing. we've had soft landings in the past that have been much more softer than this here. Because keep in mind, we still have to move on, right? I do think that I agree with him here. I don't think that we're going to basically run into a recession like we have, like in the Great Depression, for example. Let's say depression. I don't think we're ever going to really see that again at the same rate, at least, or even '08, guys, right? But something needs to happen so we can kind of fix a couple of these things. And yeah, these companies, they got hit during the 19, right? And they raised their prices to kind of meet up, to kind of get back to where they were, right? Let's say. But they never took their prices back down once they actually made up that income because they knew they didn't have to, right? So yeah, there's some type of greed here, guys.
About is we've also got fiscal policy that is very stimulative. We've got an infrastructure bill, a CHIPS Act, a lot of money going into alternative energy, wind and solar, and all of that money and the expectation of all of that money coming to the economy, and we're talking about trillions of dollars, is having a positive impact in terms of creating a huge tailwind on the economy. And that is helping us, even though the Fed continues to raise interest rates.
Let's talk a little bit about what you mentioned before.
Bro, I'm sick of these interest rates.
Wealth inequality. So what?
Like, I don't want to get back down to like 2-3% again. I don't want that. How about this? I would like that because it feels like free money in a sense, right? I guess in comparison, what are we at? Like almost 8% right now? 8.29 and I think 8.29, somewhere in there, guys, right? I don't like that number, but I know it's still better than what it was in like the 80s and things like that, guys. It's still better, regardless. We're making more money now, but everything is also super expensive. So that 8.29 or whatever it is right now, guys, is still, we feel it, guys, right? So if you can just at least make it so, how about this? Give us a 4%. I will shake hands on a 4% interest rate right now, guys. That will bring it down to the point where owning a house or buying property is still cheaper than renting, guys. Because if we get to the point where where buying a house costs more than renting an apartment, we have a problem.
Why is inequality getting worse in the U.S.?
Inequality is becoming worse for a number of reasons. One, because we have not paid very much attention to gigantic monopolies, including internet monopolies. And, we have 5 big giant internet companies. In fact, depending upon how you measure, maybe 7. They are all now over $1 trillion in capitalization. They are not only gigantic, but they have huge power. And antitrust laws have not figured out yet. And the judges and courts dealing with antitrust are still in the 20th century, not the 21st century. So we haven't really dealt with these network effects. And we don't have very good doctrines about it. But it means that you've got a lot of concentrated income at the very, very top. We used to call them robber barons at the late 19th century, early 20th century. They are the modern incarnations of the robber barons in this second Gilded Age. And I think they are responsible directly and indirectly for a lot of the widening inequality. At the same time, you've got a lot of pressures pushing down wages. One of the biggest pressures is that labor unions are far weaker today than they've ever been, at least over the last 100 years. When I was growing up, Lindsay, in the 1950s, about 30% of the private sector workforce was unionized, 1 out of 3 workers. And that was enough to really create industry-wide bargaining in most industries. Even those companies that were not unionized bought into the prevailing terms of wages and benefits because they thought, well, if we don't do this, we're going to be unionized next. Today in the private sector, we're down to 6% of the private sector workforce unionized, which means effectively there's no real bargaining leverage.
Right. Kind of related, what has the rise of shareholder capitalism meant for the common good?
Shareholder capitalism is good in the sense that it means more efficiency. That is, the classic economics 101 view of efficiency is all of the resources get put to their highest and best uses, including people. Raiders, the corporate raiders of the late 70s, early 1980s, they took advantage of the fact that there were a lot of companies that were overstaffed, that were not lean and mean. They had a lot of extra workers. They were located in in places that were inefficient. Millions of people lost their jobs, good manufacturing jobs. Unions were busted. Jobs were sent overseas. Technology was brought in to substitute for workers. And as a result, you have a large amount of America that has been essentially denuded of good jobs. What's the consequence? Anger, frustration, the sense that the game is rigged against people, and it is. It is.
Yeah.
Let's be clear.
Everything is absolutely for shareholders, guys. Let's just be completely honest. I mean, like for example, I'm in a couple of like shareholder meetings, right? I encounter them often. Let's say we don't really hear a lot, but we do hear occasionally. Oh, this company is moving here, right? Guys, keep an eye on Mexico coming up, guys. Mexico as like a whole is going to start. Basically, Mexico's the new China, guys. Just mark my word.
It is rigged because
based on a lot of these meetings,
big corporations and a lot of very powerful people who have a lot of money able to get laws and regulations that they want and stop laws and regulations they don't want. I think historically we're going to look back on shareholder capitalism as a problem that was larger than the efficiencies it generated.
Oh, I agree.
Is it possible to grow the U.S. economy and meet our environmental goals?
I would love to fix it.
Oh, yes, of course. Growth is necessary in order to meet our environmental goals. It's rich countries that are able to be environmentally responsible because they have enough wealth they can invest in wind and solar and...
Okay, guys, that's amazing. Right, definitely. Let's reach the environmental goals. Sure, right now, but we're not really the problem. The problem lies almost exclusively in like upcoming emerging nations. Right, a lot of these nations are doing exactly what we did 100 years ago, guys, pumping all of this nonsense up into the sky, guys. China, multiple countries in Africa, guys. Right, so. We can do something, sure. You know, it feels more like how do you explain that, guys? It feels more like we're doing it for a pat on the back. But until those other countries can be fixed, right? If you want to actually do something to stop this, right? They need to have access to clean energy. And it almost just comes down to that, guys. Because they're doing exactly what we did 100 years ago, that kind of sparked even the debate of this, guys.
Adaptation mechanisms. It's the poorest countries that are having the most difficulty adjusting.
Right.
So when we talk about growth, we shouldn't think about growth only in terms of things and stuff. We should think about growth as giving a society the capacity to do a lot of the things it needs to do. Environmental protection, education. Growth can be very, very positive to achieve all of these social needs.
Wrapping up, last two questions here.
Right,
what's the biggest threat to a company's bottom line?
I've worked with companies over the last 40 years that are very, very good companies, but past success makes them unwilling to change. This is any institution. It's the companies that have not succeeded in the past that are most adaptable. And adaptability is
because they're like, why would I change this and it's working? Like, this very specific thing is actually working. Why would I stop that thing that is working to go to do something that isn't working? Your best bet is absolutely to go specifically for the companies who have not had any major success, guys. They're definitely going to be the most willing to change.
All right, last one. Will the U.S. remain the world's leading economy?
Well, a lot of that
for now,
what you mean by leading economy.
Right.
In terms of living standards,
okay,
we're
not. Like 11?
Arguably not quite
7, 11?
there. There are some European countries, how long people live, the lifespan, or how comfortably people live, or how the bottom 50% by income lives. Some European countries are doing better, quote unquote, than the United States right now. China is certainly huge and growing fast.
China is going to catch up to our money, no doubt.
Is that a successful economy? Can you be a successful economy if you're basically totalitarian dictatorship? I don't think so. You can't be adaptable. You can't be
I'm gonna give them that
to create a culture of entrepreneurship. It's not just how much money I have in my pocket. It's not just my job. It is not just material comforts. It is also quality of life that goes far beyond material comforts.
That last bar right there was strong. He's right. It's not just, oh, look, I'm this super rich guy, but I'm only going to live till I'm 28 type of thing. Guys, I'm super rich, of $100 million in the bank or $100 billion in the bank, right? And I only lived till I was 34. Guys, it's ridiculous, bro. You're right. He's right. Absolutely. Money means nothing. How you spend your money means something. How you're able to live your life means something. Much more. This is why, I prefer to live in Spain, guys, right? People ask me, which do you prefer, the United States or Spain? Spain, period. Everyone has less money. Absolutely. The average person you're going to encounter makes a lot less money to you, guys. Right? Just to let you know, it's better to live in Spain and have work remotely. Live in Spain. You'll understand what I'm saying. But everyone else, for the most part, has a little bit of money, right? But they live a really long time, guys. Clean water, clean food, guys. Everything is just comfortable. Everyone walks everywhere, right? But all right, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly.